Well, you've probably heard that Kevin McCarthy is now on board with the idea of an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden based on the rather baseless accusations against President Biden from Republicans, as James Comer has tried to prove unsuccessfully of him being bribed. And I know David has walked through extensively the kind of one embarrassment after another as Republicans try to prove this again unsuccessfully. But despite the lack of success of the House Oversight Committee investigation into these claims, Kevin McCarthy is still charging forward with an impeachment inquiry. Interestingly, though, things aren't going well already for Kevin McCarthy, and there are some more moderate Republicans who are saying, I don't know about this. Do we have enough evidence to really move forward with this? First, here's Kevin McCarthy floating this idea.
We don't do it for political purposes. We follow the Constitution. That's exactly what was played out during the Nixon administration in Congress. They voted to have an impeachment inquiry. And I raised it on this show not long ago that because the actions of the Biden administration withholding information, that would rise to the level where we would need impeachment inquiry to give the strength of the Congress to get the information that we need to give to the American public.
So there's the Speaker of the House, head of the Republican Party, saying that, which you would think would indicate there's some support, enough support within his party to really do this. But as NBC News reports, vulnerable Republicans aren't sold on impeaching Biden. They have mixed feelings about whether to launch a formal inquiry, but they broadly agree the GOP doesn't have enough evidence to impeach him. Their votes will be decisive. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy faces unease within his ranks about impeaching President Joe Biden, with some politically vulnerable and cynical Republicans indicating they don't believe there's enough evidence to take such a drastic step. Those Republicans are also conflicted about whether to launch a formal inquiry, typically the first step before impeachment proceedings, and their anxieties highlight the practical and political dilemmas that McCarthy and GOP leaders will have to navigate. It talks about how the far-right hardliners definitely want this and are pushing McCarthy to do it. But then you have quotes from, for example, Mike Lawler saying impeachment should not be political by any stretch. We've seen what happens when Congress acts in a political matter. It does not serve the interest of the American people in any way. And then the question to me right now is, do the investigations, are they producing enough facts and evidence that warrant taking it to the next step? I don't think it's there at the moment, but these committees are doing their job. I don't disagree with that. And then you have other quotes, for example, here from Don Bacon saying stuff about the president. He thinks that Biden was more involved with his son's business dealings than he admitted, but it's, quote, too early for a formal impeachment inquiry. We should have more confidence that actual high crimes and misdemeanors occur before starting a formal impeachment inquiry. And it continues. So already trouble in paradise for Kevin McCarthy. And then interestingly, this comes within the context of James Comer, the head of the House Oversight Committee, who's been leading this investigation into President Joe Biden, releasing yet another memo saying and outlining what he feels is the evidence against Biden. But then, as the Washington Post reports and Philip Bump says in this op-ed, so where's the bribe, James Comer? It has now been more than 3 months since House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer and Senator Charles E. Grassley issued a release in which they accused President Biden of having been allegedly engaged in a bribery scheme with a foreign national. And it outlines the accusation that has been covered extensively on this show and mine. But the issue is, as Comer released a new assessment of payments made to Hunter Biden, Archer, and others while Biden and Archer were in business together, none of them were shown to have gone to Joe Biden, as has consistently been the case. And time again, as this op-ed nicely walks through, the promises they've made about what they're going to prove just hasn't actually occurred. And so then it becomes more and more obvious that you're not following the evidence. You're not following the facts. You're just trying to find some set of kind of manipulated stories you can tell to muddy the waters and make it to where a lot of people go, yeah, Trump's corruption and Trump's crimes, but there's some stuff I've heard about going on that side. I don't know, Biden might be caught up in something. But see, on one end, the accusations against Trump have solid evidence behind them. On the other, it's a whole lot of innuendo, a whole lot of baseless accusations. And so it's becoming more and more clear as if it wasn't from the beginning, that these investigations are politically charged, are politically motivated, as much as they accuse the Trump-related investigations of being just that. Quick break. We'll be right back.
There's something really disturbing we've been seeing in the news lately. The FBI is now gathering huge amounts of data on everything people do on phones and computers. And here is how. Data brokers collect information about what you look at online, where you go, your political views. The FBI then buys that data to keep track of you. It is a legal gray area that the government will happily take advantage of. They don't need a court order. They just do it. But it's not just the government, because criminals can end up accessing that data and use it to target you for phishing or identity theft. Big tech companies, political campaigns can buy the data to try to influence you. But here is the solution. Our sponsor, Incogni, automatically sends data removal requests to the major data brokers who are required by law to remove your information upon request. If any of your information stays online, Incogni will even follow up with them about removing it. And Incogni keeps you updated with details at every step, so you know when everything's been removed. It is a fantastic service that I use, and my audience gets 60% off. Go to incogni.com/Pacman. Use the code Pacman. The link is down below.